Alright, so in this video we'll be talking about games that were announced at E3 2021, and let's get into it. Alright, so this will be a little bit different of a video. I've really done a lot of talking head type of videos, but if you guys just want to do something else while you listen to this, that's fine. I'm just going to be talking about games that were announced at E3 2021, and also the Summer Game Fest, I guess, is kind of in there as well, so we'll be talking about those games as well. Let's go ahead and start getting into it with Summer Games Fest first. And let's see, I got my notes over here, so you'll be seeing me glance a little bit over here since I need to reference a long list of games that were actually announced. For the most part, I watched Spawnwave Media with the live stream since I work during the day and I wasn't able to live stream them. I thought I would make a video talking about my thoughts around some of the games. So Death Stranding I actually own. I made a video previously down in the description. You can find the link for that, where I unboxed the collector's edition, and they announced the director's cut for that. I'm not sure if it's an update or if it's a new game that you have to buy separately. I'm hoping it's just an update and we'll be able to just download it for like $10 to $20 and just be DLC and maybe change the game a little bit. Maybe a new mode like a New Game Plus or something. But so I'm not too thrilled on that. I didn't play too much of Death Stranding. I kind of got bored with it. There's also Tiny Tina's Wonderland, or Wonderlands. I think, yeah, Wonderlands is what it's called. And I've not been too much into the Borderlands games. I played the first one about a year ago and got most of the way through it. I think I got close to beating it. I needed to revisit that and go back through that one, the second and third, and play through all of those. But I know that a lot of people were excited for that. I might check that out when it comes out. The other one was Elden Ring. At the end of this show was given a trailer with some gameplay in it and some cinematics, obviously, and that was kind of interesting. It's kind of like a Souls game. It's by the same developers, so hopefully that'll wind up actually being something I'm looking forward to. I'm not too much into the Souls or the harder games. I know that other people have said you just have to grind a lot if you're not very good at them, and so you just have to wind up playing a little bit more, but that's all that was really announced at the Summer Games Fest that I want to talk about. So let's go and get into Ubisoft. So I have a love-hate relationship with them. I really liked Tom Clancy Ghost Recon Wildlands, but I didn't like the newest one, Breakpoint, I think is what it's called. And so I have kind of a weird relationship with Ubisoft. I don't like the newer Assassin's Creed as much as I did the originals, and so much of that. I'm looking forward to getting into Rainbow Six Extraction, because I played a little bit of Siege, but not too much. I didn't get too far into that. I kind of joined a little late, so it'd be interesting to play some of that, maybe get in with some friends and be able to play the game and experience some of the, if you die, you have to go back and try to get your character back, which is kind of cool. They also announced some other ones that overlap with other presentations, like Mario and Rabbids is also in the Nintendo section that I'll be covering in a second, but I'm not going to mention it there. Just thought I would mention it on this one. They announced it initially, the second game in that series, and the first one was good. It's a tactics game, turn-based tactics game, so that'll be interesting. They've announced a lot in this E3 for tactic-based games, so that's interesting that they're pushing towards that a little bit more than I think in previous years. I wasn't always into those type of games, but I'm getting into those. So Ubisoft mostly was a lot of updates to previous games that were released, and they're just updates like Assassin's Creed Valhalla got an update, and a bunch of their games, Watch Dogs, a bunch of other of the live service games they have. They showed some of Far Cry 6, and it's kind of a mix for me. It kind of looks good and doesn't at the same time. It doesn't look like it's a leap forward. It looks like it's the same thing, and some of the models are a little weird. When you're in the forest, it doesn't look like the character models match, and that's kind of weird. But for the most part, I think I could deal with it. As long as the story winds up being good, I will deal with some of the graphical issues that it has. They should try to fix it with maybe like how they're doing Prince of Persia, may push it back, or if they can fix it by launch time, that'd be nice too. I think it's launching next year, so hopefully they have enough time to kind of polish some things. So I don't know if this was Ubisoft or if it was in the Game Fest. I don't remember exactly where Avatar was announced, so I'm just adding that in here. I think it was actually with Summer Games Fest, so I could be wrong. But I thought that the game looks incredible for what they showed. If that's actual game footage or not, or if that was just rendered in the engine, I'd be more curious to see what the actual gameplay will be. I'm kind of excited to see what they can do with the Avatar movie game, because the original games from movies have not always been great. So hopefully this one will come out and be a little bit better than the normal game from movie franchises. But so then we go to Xbox. Xbox and Bethesda was kind of a mixed bag for me. I think that they had really good highs, but some little bit of lows. Starfield was announced for next year, and I think it's next holiday time, so that's kind of a ways off. So it's kind of weird that they dated that, but they didn't date everything, and I'll get to that in a second. So there's Redfall, which is a vampire slaying type of game that's like co-op, which I thought was kind of cool. I always think it's weird that they announce games and they just do a title card and just to show that it's in development. But Outer Worlds 2 was announced. It was just a title card, but they also kind of made a fun of it because they announced it and they kind of made it aware that they didn't have anything, but they wanted to announce it. So that was kind of a cool little joke on that, but it still was just a title and not too much more. Weirdly enough, I think because Blizzard didn't have a presentation, they announced Diablo 2 Resurrected's date, which is coming out this year, and it's got cross-play and cross-progression, so that's kind of cool, but it's kind of weird that they just announced it here in the Xbox Bethesda, and it's actually a Blizzard game and Activision, so it's kind of weird that they added it there, but maybe they just didn't feel like they had enough to show in a whole showcase and they just gave it to Xbox to throw it out there. But there was a bunch of other announcements that I'm not including in this video from Xbox, Ubisoft, Nintendo, every other presentation that I'm going to be talking about or have talked about, and includes like Game Pass stuff. Yakuza and a bunch of other games are all getting released onto Game Pass either soon or when they drop initially, they'll be just added into Game Pass, as well as putting Game Pass onto TV devices or streaming devices and stuff like that. And through xCloud, they're trying to add that to more devices so that it'll just have this streaming client so that you can just play a game anywhere and not have to worry about having an Xbox, a PC, even a phone. You can just have an Apple TV, Amazon TV, or whatever, and just be able to have it there so you can play it and get more people into playing those. It's kind of a weird thing unless they add like a controller, because then you're required to use a controller, so you probably have an Xbox or a PC. So it's a little weird there, unless they start adding in controllers into TV boxes. That'd be kind of cool though. And then they talked about Halo Infinite, both campaign and the multiplayer, showed some of it. I'm kind of excited. The only caveat for Halo so far is that they didn't give a date. They gave a holiday of 2021. That's kind of weird because they dated something like Starfield that's over a year out, but they can't give us a date for Halo. So it's kind of like they maybe will push that back if they can't get everything that they want done because of all of the situation around the world and just the response from the fans last E3. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, but I'm looking forward to Halo once it comes out. So like I said before, I'm not going to include every game that was announced, and I'm not including everybody that had a presentation like Capcom. I'm not including Capcom because I didn't see anything that interested me, and same thing with other presentations that I don't mention. So I'm going on to Square. Square had only two things that I really wanted to bring up, which was the new Final Fantasy Origin Stranger of Paradise. I'm not sure if it's Strangers of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin or if it's flipped. I don't know. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think it is. I think it's actually the Strangers of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin is the whole name. It's a lot, but it's supposed to be based off of the original Final Fantasy game, so that'll be kind of interesting to see what they do there. And it's not a turn-based, but it's a live action or action RPG where, kind of like Final Fantasy VII Remake, you kind of mash buttons or hit certain button combinations, and probably have the same thing where you can go through the menus and it like pauses the game or slows it down. so it'd be interesting to see what they do there. They also did announce Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, which is I thought it was originally going to be in the Avengers game, but then it ended up being its own game. It is weird that it kind of looks like you only play as the one character and you can't play as every Guardian. You have to only play as the one. And also it's coming to Switch, which was announced in the Nintendo presentation, but I'm just adding it here because it's a cloud version on the Switch. So it's going to be streamed onto the Switch, meaning you have to have an internet connection. Unlike the other consoles where you'll be able to just play it anytime you want. I'm not buying any of the cloud-based ones because you don't have the game on the system, but that's a good thing for people that only have a Switch, and hopefully they can enjoy the games as well. So after that, there's Limited Run Games, which announced a lot of physical games, and there goes my wallet. But the highlights for me were Axiom Verge 2. They announced a few different Castlevania Requiem for the PS4, and then Rondo of Blood for the Turbo Duo, which I don't actually own one, but it'd be kind of cool to have that. So when I eventually do pick up a Turbo Duo, which they're kind of expensive, but be able to actually have something that's more rare. They also announced the Contra Anniversary Collection to have a physical release on PS4 and Switch, and that's really good because they had the Castlevania one, and so now they're adding the Contra one so that they actually get physical releases. Then they had the Shantae 1 to 5 on PS5 was announced. They already released all the Shantae games on other platforms like Switch, PS4. I think those are the only two. But now they're doing it on PS5, and you'll be able to collect them all that way. And they also did the same thing for River City Girls, and they announced number 2 for that, and that's going to everything, including the PS5, just like their first game is. And then they announced River City Girls 0, which is like an origin game, usually why they would name it 0, but that's coming to the Switch. And I'm not sure if any of these games already existed on the Switch, so let me know down in the comments if any of these physical releases are already on the Switch. I actually don't know. I don't browse the eShop too much. It's kind of hard to navigate and find things, so these are all newer to me unless they're like the more well-known stuff like Contra and Castlevania. But they also announced Skatebird for PS4 and Switch, as well as Super Hot for the Switch. These are all physical games that Limited Run will be releasing. And then Retromania Wrestling for the PS4 and Switch, as well as Plumbers Don't Wear Ties, which I don't know of the game, but I've been hearing that as like as a funny little nod. I'm not sure what the game is about, but that's releasing on PS4, PS5, Switch, and PC, all through Limited Run Games physically. So go ahead and make sure you guys check out the link in the description for Limited Run Games. This isn't sponsored. I'm wearing the shirt, but I just like the company. I think it's a good thing to have physical releases of games. So make sure you go check that out, and make sure you just stay up to date with them to be able to get any of these games physical. Some of them are already on the page when this video goes live, so make sure you go check that out. Alright, so the last one I'm going to talk about is Nintendo. I'm not going to cover anything that I already spoke about, that I just added it in those sections that first talked about. Alright, let's go ahead and talk about Metroid Dread, which is a 2D Metroid, because they're not ready to release Metroid Prime 4, which is good. I still need to play through the first 3, so this will hold me over until then. That's a 2D game that I'm really excited for. It looks really good, and I like how they switch the camera between 2D and 3D to when you like get attacked or anything like that, to try to show you more animation, which is really cool. They're redoing Advance Wars and calling it Advance Wars 1 and 2 Reboot Camp. Boot Camp, funny. Then you got WarioWare, which has a fancy new name, just a bunch of mini games. Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania is not a new game in the series, but a remake of the first 3 games, which is actually really cool. I never played those on the original. I think it came out in the GameCube. Let me know down in the comments if that's not right, but I'm pretty sure they came out in the GameCube and on the PS2, so I never really played them. I wasn't really into that when I was growing up, but I'm interested to play them and remastered and everything. So and they announced Super Mario Party Superstars, I think is what it's called, or it's just called Mario Party Superstars. I'm not 100% sure on the name, but they announced a new Mario Party, which it looks like it's just like an add-on, but it's not. It's an actual full new game but I think it's just leveraging what they did with the first Super Mario Party, and they're just adding a bunch to it, or maybe it's going to be separate. I don't know, but we'll have to just keep an eye out on that and see if they give more details on exactly what is being included. Then they announced games that are already out on other consoles but coming to the Switch, like Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2, Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, and a bunch of other games I didn't list here. Those are the only two that I actually listed on here, but they announced a bunch of other games that are coming to the Switch and either being ported or just being released that were kind of smaller games. Then you got the bigger games like Mario Golf, and then that's coming out in July, as well as The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD, which is also coming out in July. Already picking those up. It's kind of cool that they're adding them just to get more visibility for everybody watching E3, but most of us already know that we're buying it. I would think, at least for the people that are informed in the games industry or watch a lot of videos on YouTube, you probably know you're going to pick those up. Then they talked about a Game & Watch for Legend of Zelda, which included the first two games, the handheld version of Link's Awakening, and a custom version of a game that was on an original Game & Watch, but with Link as the main character. You guys can go check that out on Best Buy or Amazon and be able to pre-order that. They're probably going to be relatively easy to get based off of how easy it is still to get the Mario version of that Game & Watch. They're probably not going to be limited like the Mario 3D Superstars collection was limited. This don't seem to be limited at all. And then they close it out with Breath of the Wild 2, showing some gameplay, I think, at least a cinematic trailer, giving us some glimpse into the game, and it looks like it's just the same place as Breath of the Wild, just added in sky terrain and changing some stuff and expanding on the story of the first game, going into the second game, and it looks like he loses the Sheikah Slade, or and maybe loses an arm, and they sum all of that up. And I don't know where Zelda is. They didn't really show if she's in the game. If you play as her, that'd be really cool, but they didn't really go into too much around that. And at this point of this video, I think I've talked enough. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think about this E3. I, for the most part, think it was good for the situation we're in with all of the world being shut down and then just now reopening and going into normalcy more into this year and into next year. We'll probably have a better grasp on what games are coming out next year than we do now. And so hopefully next year's E3 is a little bit bigger and we can just keep going up and up from there so that we can get back to normal over the next few years. And before we get out of here, like this video if you liked it, dislike if you don't, hit the subscribe button and then turn bell notification on so you get notified when we upload new videos. And links will be down in the description for all of our merch, Twitter, a bunch of other links you can link down there. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think about this video and more of the talking head, personal opinion based stuff, so I can see if you guys like that and maybe do some more. And thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.